From Sportsnet Studios in downtown Toronto, this is Free Association on the Sportsnet Podcast Network. I'm JD Bunkus. He is Donnovan Bennett. Does that feel like an intense intro to you?
That sounded so ridiculous. You couldn't even finish.
I know. I want to say the Sportsnet Radio Network because I do radio shows, and so I got jammed up in it. I probably should have practiced.
You could do it again if you'd like.
Nah, this sounds good. I think they call me One Take Jake, and so I got to be true to my form. I got to do it in the one take. How are you today, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
You good? You have a good Halloween?
I mean, I'm a grown-ass man, so it was just another day.
You don't do any parties?
No.
You dress up your baby?
Yeah, it has it had a couple onesie costumes.
You still say it?
I guess. I didn't realize it.
When does it become he?
I don't put pronouns on my baby. I will let him choose his own. He's he or she's own.
Or
gender.
Zim or Zer.
Or they.
Or they.
My baby is gender fluid until they can choose. No, I was thinking of the answer, but also I was thinking how much time would elapse before you said anything about basketball or the Raptors.
Right now. The Raptors. They lost to the
How
Bucks.
how much time was that?
About a minute.
Okay, that's low for you. It's
Things
only like 3
seem
minutes.
longer to you. People want to know about your personal life. They want to know what you do.
They
You
do
had multiple onesies.
Actually. No, we should.
Have you ever read the podcast reviews of this show? Have you ever gone to iTunes?
One of the first things I was taught in getting into this business was don't read the comments.
Whoever told you that is a liar because our podcast is a 5-star review. Go and review it. Do an added thing. Tell Donnovan the truth about how you feel about hearing about his personal life. This is a PSA.
You could tell me, but I'm not listening.
Amo,
Yes.
what is the most common thing we get in our reviews?
They want to know more about Donovan's basketball.
That's right.
personal
They
life.
love the banter.
Yeah, from your burner account.
The
Maybe.
people land here for the banter. They stay for the high level basketball talk. So yeah,
They could ask for more banter in the comments. It would not be a wise mode of communication because I'm not gonna read them. So,
What if I pay a skywriter to write all the reviews in the sky? Will you read them then?
no, I don't even like.
What if your son's first words are "Dada"? Please read the reviews.
That would be a sentence, not first words. I even mentions, like when people mention things, I rarely care. Like
Wow.
it's water off a duck's back.
You're kind of a badass. You're a lot more badass than me. I'm very sensitive. I read the comments, I read the reviews, I read the tweets, and they affect me. I won't lie. I'm the Kevin Durant. I'm Kevin Durant if Kevin Durant just admitted that it hurt his feelings and had no talent.
So you know you're about to get a bunch of mentions because now people know that you read them and that you care.
Oh man, I read them. The worst part is that now our YouTube manager Drew sends me screen caps sometimes of people ripping me in the YouTube comments. I'm like, that's the one place that I don't read the comments. I stay off of YouTube because I generally accepted, I don't know, in when did YouTube come out? It was like the YouTube comments were basically just,
I want to say 06, 05 or 06. I guess we
yeah,
can look it
YouTube
up.
comments just were from day one, just the place where hatred just spawns. It's a cesspool of hatred. So it's like, don't show me those, and yet he does. So I can't avoid anything now.
What minute are we at right now?
Minute 3.5.
Nice.
Okay,
There
still
we go.
no-
Now we're in it,
still
baby.
no
Now we're in it.
basketball.
Now we're in the cesspool. All right.
When we put the tags on like
Yeah.
the topics, like can we just put when the basketball talk is going to start?
Right now.
Thank you.
My segue was one thing you could not ignore.
February 14th, 2005, YouTube was founded.
Wow.
Continue.
That seems to me like yesterday. I'm so old. The one thing you could not ignore on social media the past week was the discourse surrounding Giannis Antetokounmpo. And as John Hollinger described it on Good Show, the radio show that I host for Sportsnet 590 The Fan, the connective tissue between the Milwaukee Bucks superstar and the Toronto Raptors organization. And I want to read the quote that he gave us on the radio when we had him on as a guest, because I thought it was a pretty good one. We had him on. He wrote an article about Giannis being linked and Giannis being a target of Masai Ujiri's a couple off seasons from now. Hollinger on Good Show, I asked him, is this just everyone's going after Giannis, or because that's kind of smart business to go after, the best free agent that's going to be available unless Kawhi Leonard opts out? Or is there's more to it than that? He said, I think there's more connecting tissue here with Giannis and the Raptors. If he decides to leave Milwaukee, I think Toronto would be a chief destination for him. What do you make of that quote? Ridiculous timing to be talking about it, or something that you are actively thinking about?
I've been talking about it.
Yeah.
And people at the time, I should look it up. I can't remember if it was been a year or 2 years that I've put that in copy that I've written. Like, we often talk about league pass teams in terms of who fan bases should care to watch. And the Hawks are fun. The Suns somehow are fun. Who loves to watch the Mama's Boys in Portland, that great backcourt? If you're a Raptors fan, you should be watching the Milwaukee Bucks. And you should be praying to whatever deity you pray to that they do not mess around and win a championship. Because if they don't, it's in play that Giannis is going to have to go somewhere else to find his championship. And if he does, there are few destinations, if any, that would be better at that time than this one. So it is a real thing. It's been a real thing. For anyone who says that it's not is foolish.
So I'm of two minds on this. One is, I'll just get this out of the way, essentially as a caveat. I get that the Raptors are exciting now, and I understand that, well, you and I obviously aren't going to spend the entire next 2 seasons of this program talking about the hunt for Giannis. But the Raptors just played them. People are talking about it. We're addressing it now. This isn't going to be, we're not going to be the Lawrence Franks sitting in the stands of every Bucks game talking about Giannis to the Raptors in 2021. But it is a story right now. And it's one that I think is worth discussing, because just like the Kawhi thing with the Lakers and the Clippers, this feels kind of similar, where there's a lot of people that have been drawing the Bucks or the Giannis Raptors connection. This isn't just one report from John Hollinger, who, was in the league for the last 5 seasons with the Memphis Grizzlies and now is one of the, foremost insiders in the game right now. It's being reported by other people that Giannis and the Raptors, there are things that are linking them. And I think the easy lines to draw are that it's an international city, and that becomes more attractive to an international player like Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's a world-class city. Anybody that comes to Toronto can understand that. But there is a difference in attracting someone who is from Greece than someone who is from California. It's true that you're used to living at home. If you're a guy like Kawhi Leonard, you want to go back home. You spend your off seasons at home. It's what you know. It's where you'd like to be. You can have the best of both worlds. I think it's different for guys like Giannis. I guess my major question is, if you believe, which it seems like we both do, and I think we believe because Masai Ujiri is still the president of the Toronto Raptors, and they actually pulled off the Kawhi Leonard trade, and they've got a good foundation with a strong, I would say, identity. What do you think is the actual blueprint for getting Giannis Antetokounmpo? Where does it begin?
The blueprint in getting him?
Yeah, like if I asked you, what do you think is the best way to go about getting him? Because I'll put it this way. I think that there's a case for strip down some of your assets now, the ones that might not be here in the future, a la Kyle Lowry, a la Marc Gasol, a la Serge Ibaka. If you can get a first-round pick for Kyle Lowry, move him so that you have another asset that you can use as a basically bargaining chip for Giannis Antetokounmpo when he's here, saying, hey, man, what do you want us to do with this pick? Or, hey, man, how do you want us to move off of something to acquire a certain thing? Or it's continuing to just build this exact franchise of winning, sustainability, and that's the best way to not only cultivate the best version of Pascal Siakam, but the best version of OG Anunoby, the best version of Fred, and then continue that way up.
Yeah, I mean, you're not committing any long-term money unless it's someone who is young. Mm-hmm. But I think February is going to be interesting in terms of where this team is, what types of needs there are elsewhere for point guards and centers, given The fact that they've got two good ones at both position. And if they're buyers, sellers, or stand pat at the deadline, I came into this season saying if Kawhi's gone, it's a don't pay a cent event. We're selling off everything, making sure that the books are clear in the future. I've now come off that a little bit in saying there's a value to having good relationships with these players and these agents, doing right by them, and in a situation where even if you are in on Giannis, well, I mean, would it be the worst thing in the world if Kyle Lowry comes back? I mean, not at 30 or 31 million, but at 10 or 15 for another chance to win a ring? Would it be the worst thing in the world if you had Serge Ibaka or Marc Gasol, maybe at that point, not as a starter, but off the bench, giving you some veteran presence, some championship pedigree, again, for a lot cheaper, but for the chance to win, really extend their legacy in the city? Because you know what those three guys have in common? They're respected around the league, and they're good guys to play with. So if I'm Giannis and I'm trying to figure out where I want to play and who I want to play with, the money that they're taking up right now, sure, that's an issue. But in terms of the fit, those guys are in place. So I actually think that there's a good chance that they relatively stand pat unless they're blown away. Because, again, that money is coming off the books. And if you want to bring those guys on lower deals and put basically a version of this team with, some changes around the edges together with Giannis, that sounds pretty good to me. Like, I don't think you need to do anything dramatic in order to lure him in a couple years, because they've already done the work in making sure that their contracts aren't for the next 3, 4, 5 years, they're for next 1 or 2.
I agree with everything you just said. This thing has to be very fluid, and I think it's going to be like you're driving a high-performance vehicle here, and you're driving it on some pretty tricky roads. And who do you feel better to pilot this thing or to drive this car than Masai Ujiri? And so the handling might be a little finicky, but you trust this driver to handle it well. I think everything's on the table for the right price. Let's put it that way. Like, I don't know if the Raptors have an untouchable player outside of Pascal Siakam. Like, genuinely, if the right offer came to you for OG Anunoby and it gave you financial flexibility, or not just financial flexibility, but like draft pick flexibility or player flexibility of a certain right price going into the Giannis year, I don't think that that's a non-starter for this team. They have one untouchable guy in Pascal Siakam. That being said, this is my feeling about it. I think you have to try to win all the way up to Giannis. I think you need to try to remain as competitive as possible and only sell off assets if they come back at extreme premium prices. For 2 reasons. One is that I'm starting to really believe player development, the most important thing, even though the Suns are looking good to start the season and they've been crap and it was through opportunity for guys like Devin Booker, that part of the Raptors' formula of success is allowing guys to grow at their own pace. Like, Pascal Siakam didn't need to be thrown into the fire. OG Anunoby didn't need to be thrown in the fire. They could grow and they could take gradual steps. Even if those steps have been big like Siakam's, they weren't necessary.
Both guys started as rookies.
Yep, both guys started as rookies, but what was being asked of Pascal Siakam as a starter when he was a rookie? It was, hey, kid, can you please hit this 4-foot shot and pass the ball when you touch it? Like, it was run out on the break and try to flush down a dunk for us once in a while. Ultimately, like, the responsibility of the players has been pretty low up until last season and this season. Like, wouldn't you agree with that? This is the first time now Siakam's being asked to take a big burden of the load. What would it have been like if early in his career he would have had to shoulder more offense?
Yeah, I mean, they never really drafted in a scenario where you were picking a guy who anyone would expect they would be able to carry an offense. This administration, the only true lottery pick they had was Jakob Poeltl.
Yep.
But
again, they allowed him to come in as a backup.
Yes, they did. But I'm now thinking, if you were to rank all of the, I mean, this last year's too soon. Like, let's take Derwan Hernandez out of the equation. But if you were to rank the draft picks that Masai Ujiri has made since coming back to Toronto, you just rank their NBA stock right now, Poeltl would have been the highest, and Poeltl might be the worst.
Well, Bruno is the worst.
Oh, right.
Bruno's back in the
forgot,
G
I
League.
forgot about Bruno.
But yeah, if you look at it just like where he's found value, I think Masai Ujiri has a case in terms of he's been the best drafting general manager in the NBA over the last 5 seasons.
But
Like,
to your point, he's internally developed that value.
yeah, he has. And I like the way that the Raptors are operating things. And I think I mentioned this to you before, but I think this is kind of what you need to be, is the island for misfit toys, where guys who have either are redraft candidates like the Stanley Johnsons of the world, they come to Toronto and you try to rehabilitate them. And if you have success on those guys, those are actually the market inefficiencies that you have an edge on. Like, I think there's a reason Terrence Davis came here. In fact, I know there's a reason Terrence Davis came here because, well, I've talked to him about it before. But like, he signed with the Toronto Raptors. They went out and got him. They were visible to him because Kawhi Leonard was his favorite player. But also he trusted that turning guys like Fred VanVleet, or helping turn Fred VanVleet into Fred VanVleet and Norm Powell into Norm Powell, that those things matter to a guy like him. So I think that the sales pitch you have for Giannis starts with, not only do we have guys that we've developed in the system, we win. We have a culture where guys come here and they treat it like an NFL team, where jobs are up for grabs and you need to be better than the next man up or you might lose a spot. And that the difference between here and Milwaukee is that the organizational structure is going to be better. What is going to be asked of you is different than here. And we are going to be able to surround you with sustainable pieces that know how to fit around you, like they did for Kawhi Leonard and like they're doing kind of for Pascal Siakam right now.
Well, the other difference from here in Milwaukee is that we have the financial flexibility to go make some moves.
They go on luxury tax. There's no Malcolm Brogdon thing happening in Toronto.
Well, and they just, like, the Bucks, this is their team for the next 2, 3, 4 years. Mm-hmm. They're all in. They made their decisions. We're bringing in another Lopez. We're going in on Middleton. We already gave Bledsoe his money, so now he's virtually untradeable. And we're saying goodbye to Brogdon. So this is their group, right? Aside from Davis taking a huge step, like their core isn't
DiVincenzo.
Yeah. White Dante. Their core isn't changing all that much. The Raptors' core could change quite a bit because they have the flexibility in terms of the term of the contracts on their books, but also because of their ability to, year in, year out, have their guys internally improve. But I do want to push back on your notion that this can be the island for misfit toys, because that hasn't really worked. Like, if you look at and you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who capes for Masai and Bobby Webster more than me, but if you look at their free agent moves, haven't been good. Like Rondé and Stanley, it's super early, but so far,
but that's this year.
Negative, yes. Jared Sullinger, no. Damari Carroll, no. CJ Miles, no. Like, via free agency, they haven't actually done a great job. What they've done is internally found value and made those guys better. And so all that other stuff didn't really matter. The only person that they've brought in, really, that have made a huge impact were former Spurs. Corey Joseph, which he was basically capped out because they went after Aldridge, and Kawhi Leonard, who was a proven commodity before he got here. Which is why, bringing this all back to Giannis, I think luring someone who via free agency is already a proven commodity is so important. Because when you look at that draft class, everyone's saving their money and there's going to be so many people available. How many of them are coming to Toronto?
No, low.
Is
That's what I mean.
LeBron coming to Toronto?
Giannis
Paul
isn't
George
just the
coming to Toronto?
target because he's the best guy. He's the target because he's the best fit as well.
He's the only realistic fit. Like, outside of Giannis.
Yeah, like Bradley Beal's not coming here.
To be honest, the person who they probably have the second best chance in that class of coming here is Kawhi Leonard. Like, that's literally the only other option.
You don't think after Masai torched Uncle Dennis that relationship is finito?
He kind of walked it back. Yeah. And I don't think Kawhi is getting push alerts in terms of what's being said in the media. So if people are saying, "Oh, you're putting too many eggs in the Giannis basket," no, that's the only basket.
No, that's the basket. That's the basket. I agree with you. You do whatever it takes to get Giannis. Like, whatever the path is to Giannis that they see is best. If they were ever to ask him, here's the thing, what gives us the best odds? you follow that. It's just like people knock the Lakers for not going out and being more aggressive in free agency and taking like a D'Angelo Russell, for example, off the board and going out and acquiring a guy like that. Not being more aggressive in terms of pursuing those middle tier free agents who they probably would have had a shot at. They went all in for Kawhi. And guess what? That was the right call. Because if you have a shot at having Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James, you're winning championships. Like, you're locking those in. You're saying the Lakers have one or two. It's not a question of, well, maybe if you have somebody else. Like, you do something later in the season, who cares? Whatever you do, try and get Kawhi Leonard. Duh. You have a chance at him? Hold the horses. Don't make any drastic moves. You wait, you wait, you wait. You're patient, you're patient, you're patient. You do the same thing with Giannis. I would just... To me, my Island of Misfit Toys still feels like I didn't look at DeMar Carroll that way. I didn't even look at Corey Joseph that way. Like, those are real free agents. Those are guys they actually had to pay a premium for. Like, those guys didn't come here for cheaper. What I'm saying is more, let's see how...
Jared Sullinger didn't work out.
Totally. Jared Sullinger did not work out. And that was
the
like
two
the
Misfit
inefficiency.
Toys guys aren't playing right now.
That was the inefficiency of inefficiency. I think I lump in the guys like Fred VanVleet into that category, the undrafted free agents, the Terrence Davises into that category, potentially the Matt Thomases into that category, like guys who are around the fringes that might be able to come here and develop a little bit better. Guys who aren't set pieces like free agents, like Corey Joseph, we knew was already an NBA player. DeMar Carroll, we knew was an NBA player. I think I'm talking about fostering guys that actually have upside, where there isn't something that is ironclad, this is who you are already. We're just trying to get a little bit better out of you. And this is why I would say keep those pieces around Pascal Siakam, because you made a point about the difference between Siakam and Giannis Antetokounmpo at this point. And I think it's a salient one. And what's so important for me, I think, is having OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam be their best versions. And I think right now for those guys to still be their best selves, they're better with Marc Gasol helping their development. They're better with Kyle Lowry being able to take the scoring burden off or facilitate for others right now. Like, the Raptors aren't ready to just be Siakam, Fred VanVleet, and OG Anunoby and have that look like the best core for Giannis. If you want those guys to take that next step, I think it's important to still have those veterans around them.
The other thing is this: if we were to redraft, right, and or change the draft, and so that players could choose where they applied their trade.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a radical concept, which I don't think is that radical, in terms of abolishing the draft in sports and do like a matching situation. So if you're a med student, you rank your options, and then the schools rank who they want, and then kind of an algorithm figures out, okay, who is best with who. So you really like that situation, they really like you, and it may work out, it may not, based on the math. If we were to apply that sensibility to sports, well, certainly the Raptors would be in on Giannis. It would make sense, 100%.
Yeah, he'd be their one.
But Giannis would likewise be in on the Raptors.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what census data you look at, there's anywhere from 40 to 60,000 people of Greek descent in Toronto. Never mind Canada, where that number is around 250,000. There is a massive Greek population in this city. And for someone who is a legit international star to come to an international city, every year it's between like them and the Spurs, the most international team in the league, whose family is originally of African descent, to play for the first African executive who he watched on HBO Real Sports bring the trophy back to Africa and is crying with his family. Like, you don't think Giannis wants to be a part of that? Theoretically, he would. The thing is, and I do think
That's already set, though, right? Like, they don't need to change that. Like, we have the Danforth, it's not going anywhere.
Correct. And he has the relationship with Masai. Masai helping him get his passport and enter the draft. Like, that is all set. None of that is changing. The thing that will change, and this is what I think people need to watch. There is like a boomerang when it comes to stars. I do think, I take Giannis at his word. I think he really does want to make it work in Milwaukee and be a one franchise guy that's there, that wins there, does the Kobe thing, the Curry thing, be there the entire time. Why wouldn't you want that?
Yeah, sure.
The thing that changes, though, and we saw this with LeBron, saw this with Kevin Durant. Oh, you're a young star. You're up and coming. We like you. Oh, you're fighting. You're getting your way to the top. Okay, your MVP status. You're the best player of the league. Oh my goodness. Now the team needs to put stuff around you to win. Pressure's on them. Then all of a sudden it flips. This is just the cycle of sports and media and culture. And the questions now are not, well, what do they need to put around you to win? It's, well, why can't Giannis take the next step? Why can't Giannis win? What is he not doing? Why is he not shooting threes better? Why is he not making his teammates better? Is he going to be the greatest ever to never win a ring? Is he going to be like Charles Barkley in that conversation, the Dan Marino of basketball? And then when players start hearing that, they're like, no. I need to take agency over my legacy. So, sorry, Milwaukee, you had 7, 6, 8 years of my life. I'm moving on because I need to get this ring to change that conversation.
Right.
If that happens over the next 2 years, all bets are off.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, though, is that you still have to present yourself as a championship opportunity. It can't just be geographical location like the Lakers. I think that matters. I think all those things you mentioned count, like being of Nigerian background and connecting with Masai Ujiri, that matters. Of having a huge Greek population in Toronto and being able to have more visibility in a Greek community in a place like Toronto, obviously, than Milwaukee, that matters. But how the Raptors position themselves to acquire him is what we're about to talk about, is duos, man. Guys want to team up with one another. And you need to put Pascal Siakam in the best opportunity possible to become a full-blown star. And you and I think, do you think you know the ceiling of Siakam? Like, I would think it's fair to say he's not going to be a superstar.
He's already surpassed what I thought the ceiling was. So for me to say I know what the ceiling is no. But I do think, to your point, I think Giannis right now is a full-blown superstar.
Right.
I don't think Siakam will get to level. He'll be a great
All-star.
He'll be a great B plus beside an A plus. But the game that we saw last week, to me, was the difference. Siakam was good. He was +5, second best on the team, even though they lost, but couldn't stay out of foul trouble. Wasn't really able to impact the game. Giannis took the game over and just physically willed his team to win. And to me, that's the difference between the two.
My favorite Giannis plays are when he gets offensive rebounds and he barely jumps and dunks on people. Like when he got that one over Kyle in transition, and he's just like, all right, I got it back. He's like, oh, you got a transition stop. And then Giannis like, yeah, but I'm like still right here and I'm just going to flush this thing down.
Well, it's just I'm playing basketball with younger kids and I'm just taking over on the Nerf hoop. It's like, weird. Marc Gasol, you're going to really take a shot at my area? No, you're not. Bledsoe misses a layup. Okay, I'm just grabbing it, and I don't care if there's 3 guys around me. I'm just putting it back and dunking.
I still like I think still the best comparison that anyone has ever made to Giannis is Shaq. Like, I still think that he's baby Shaq. He's just so dominant around the rim. He always leads the league in dunks. That's kind of like who he is to me, is young Shaq.
If Shaq and Lamar Odom had a baby,
Lamar Odom,
it would be Giannis.
I mean, if there was ever anybody in the NBA that I didn't think was going to get compared to Giannis today, it was Lamar Odom. I mean, here's the thing. It's good to be compared to Lamar Odom, basketball player. Giannis, don't be he's Shaq and Lamar Odom had a baby because of off-the-court stuff once you come to Toronto. That's all. That's all I ask. Let's just keep it that way. We got to take a break. I want to talk to everybody quickly about the SN Raptors newsletter, because this year there's a weekly newsletter from our NBA editor, Steve Elung. It's original content, it's original opinion, it's original analysis. You can go to sportsnet.ca/newsletter, and you can subscribe to that and be a part of it. And I think it's really good. I think Stevie does a great job, so I fully endorse it.
One thing you'll potentially find in that newsletter, if it makes the cut, but one thing you'll see from Stevie is he's churning out a lot of content as our basketball editor, so shouts to him. He's been doing some nice little recaps of this year podcast.
Well,
so if you happen to miss an episode, go to the Google machine, go on Sportsnet. He'll break down what the most pertinent conversation is, and there'll be an embed to the podcast so you can listen right there as well.
I was going to say, if you are Donnovan will never know of you because he's never going to pay attention to you, but if you are a fan of his who believes that I talk way too much about non-basketball things, Stevie's breakdown never includes any of the stuff I say on the outside. It's all pure show, basketball, action, baby. That's it.
I feel bad for Stevie. He has to scrub through the first 3:30 of the podcast.
Good account. Stevie, let's do another newsletter. Let's talk about like ranking Halloween candies and the stuff that I like to do.
What, do you want to work for Deadspin?
Not now. I mean, I think there's positions available. I think it's not too hard. Not too hard to get over there right now. All right. I just want to say this quickly because I want to get into duo rankings. and you and I want to talk about who we think are the best duos so far, and I think we're going to do as gold, silver, and bronze for who we've been most impressed by. I'll just say this: last week you said you weren't that concerned with Kyle Lowry's minutes, but
I did.
Yeah, we talked about it. I think you mentioned that you didn't think that it was going to be a major problem. No? Okay, I'm misquoting you. My bad.
No, I'm saying I don't. I'm.
Oh,
I'm
you still
saying,
don't? Okay,
yes,
that's what I was going to
correct.
ask you. Is that like he's now leading the NBA in minutes still? You know who's number 2? Fred VanVleet. They're
He
both
is.
over 37.8 minutes for Fred, 38.8 minutes for Kyle. The schedule is one where you could kind of load them up early. I don't think it's going to continue necessarily this way. There's probably going to be a little bit of load management sprinkled in. But for two guys who have dealt with, some injuries over the last couple of years and who are very small, this is not on your radar up until this point. I guess when would it be?
So in the past, I have been concerned about Kyle Lowry's minutes, not just because of the load physically, just because of exposure to injury. Like it's basic math. The more minutes you play, the greater likelihood in one of those minutes you can get hurt. He has been injury prone. If he was hurt for an extended period of time, that hurts the overall perspective of the team. So limiting his minutes and limiting his exposure to injury makes sense. And so from that standpoint, with Lowry specifically, I am concerned. But with Fred, not as much. Listen,
Fred was banged up all last year, though.
he was, but not only are their minutes high, their miles run per game are high. Shout out to RJ Barrett, who leads the league in miles run per game at 2.83. Number 2 is Fred at 2.8. Number 6 on the list is Kyle.
That's too many running miles for Kyle.
At 2.7.
I don't want you to be 6, Kyle.
So first of all, Fred, when this was brought to him this week, said, I can play 48. I'll play 48. He wants the minutes. So he's not trying to hear.
Do you think Fred VanVleet's in a contract year? I would say yes.
I think he sat at a draft party and was undrafted. And he's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell people that I don't want to play. I want to play as much as possible. But more importantly, what Nick Nurse said to the media about this very topic is why I'm not concerned. He said, you're not doing heavy contact with the guys who are playing heavy minutes. And it's true. At this point, those guys don't really need to practice. And I was the first to crush Thibodeau about running his good Bulls team literally into the ground. Like they disintegrated in front of our eyes. All of those guys are now virtually washed thanks to Tibbs. And his front office was saying, can you please stop doing this? Like we have all of the data. This doesn't make any sense. And he wouldn't listen. But the difference was he was doing 2.5-hour practices in between. Nick Nurse is not doing that. So if Kyle Lowry is playing 2 more minutes per night so they don't lose a lead and they win, I'm fine with that because Kyle Lowry is going to go to the OVO Athletic Center and he's going to be wearing sweatpants and he's going to get the work that he knows he needs to get in, and that's it. And this is a veteran team, again, that got better throughout the playoffs because they were learning and understanding each other with a bunch of new faces and playing together. Now with so many faces back, they don't really need to practice that much. So listen, Uncle Alex is not just good with shoestring. Think about all the things that are being measured. Mm-hmm. Their red blood cells are being measured. Their body mass density is being measured. The amount of oxygen that is going through their body is being measured. How they respond from getting off a plane and practice the next day is being measured. These guys are being so closely watched that we know they're not going to push them past that red line because Kawhi never, ever played when was even close. So I trust that their medical staff, which they've invested lots of money in over the last 5 years, is watching these guys and saying, yeah, no, they're good. Just don't run them during practice and make them do suicides and wind sprints. And Nick Nurse is like, yeah, I'm fine with that. So that's why it's not concerning because they have a vested interest in getting them through the season.
I disagree. I don't want to put my 2 diminutive point guards on the floor for 4 minutes a night. And I would say that
even if it means in between, they're not doing anything in practice other than the work they need to do.
Yeah, I just don't know what they're actually doing in practice. And if I was seeing it every day, and I trust Alex McKechnie. You're dead right. That was the way to sell me on this. Is you were like, Uncle Alex has it all figured out, and I was like, yep. You know what? I'm not going to question him. So who am I to say that? I think we've seen with Kyle Lowry that he wears down when he has too much on his plate, and to me right now he's got too much on his plate. And with Fred, I don't want a guy who had. I want Fred to be the guy who had one season where he's banged up, not the guy who's banged up all the time. And I have my concerns about it. It's not something that I'm freaking out about right now because it's too early into the season, but it's definitely something I have flagged. And I would say that my one problem with this Raptors roster is, well, two. One is that there's no Kawhi because I still miss Kawhi. But two is they didn't go out and get a backup point guard. I think that they fell in love a little bit too much with Pat McCaw. And maybe there's more to Patrick McCaw than
out indefinitely right now. Knee injury.
I don't see what they see when it comes to Pat McCaw. Like, he's just one of those dudes where they think he can be a backup point guard, and I trust Nurse and I trust Masai, and he was someone that was intriguing to me coming into the draft, but I just don't see how he's going to be a backup point guard. I think it's too much responsibility for Terrence Davis, and I think the other solution of, well, Siakam can be your point guard for minutes is like, that's nice. That's a thing you can go to, but I generally think you still need a point guard. It's something that this team's going to add. You want to do duos?
Sure.
Or you got anything else on this?
No. I'm just not
Okay.
worried about it. You know who knows how banged up Kyle Lowry has been?
Alex McKechnie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think they're taking it.
Do you go see the doctor a lot?
Once a year.
That's pretty good. I never do, unless something's really, really wrong. And then I sit in emergency and I go like, I think I'm dying. And they're like, you're fine. You are totally fine. But yeah, it takes like real panic for me to go.
But
see
here's
one.
the other thing. Would you rather those guys play 5 minutes less a night and this team lose games?
No,
because that's on the table. They're not.
Yeah.
The bottom line is they're not good enough for those guys not to
Right,
play.
but I'm saying that's an issue. That's because that's a depth issue. Is that the depth you already mentioned it is like they don't trust 2 of the free agents they brought in. They're never playing Matt Thomas. Terrence Davis is being very, very he's being very eased into this rotation. Right now they're playing it really tight. I wonder when that's going to start to expand, if we're going to see other things. It's just that every position I can see backups at. Every position I can even talk myself into a Chris Boucher lightening the load for a Pascal Siakam or for a Serge Ibaka. The place I don't see it is point guard. They just don't have anything there.
But I also think Fred has played so well
Yeah.
that they were forced to play the 2 of them together.
That's what I mean.
Like,
And-
he's played himself into more minutes, and for a guy that you would like to come back here,
Mm-hmm.
and he went on to him and said, I would like to come back.
Mm-hmm.
You want to reward the fact that he's earning minutes.
I know. I think they're in a rock and a hard place where their best starting 5 is clearly them, that Kyle and Fred work well together, but that eventually, maybe, just maybe, they might have to move Fred back to the bench to keep them both alive and move someone else into that starting 2 position. Duo rankings, gold, silver, bronze. I did mine the way that I ranked mine was based on this season and what we've seen alone. So, for example, I don't have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on my list. Is that how you did it as well?
Correct. Yeah.
I did it based on who I like, who I've been most impressed by, and who have been the best 2 together.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to start this by saying dead last in duos for me is Russell Westbrook and James Harden.
Agreed. Why?
Okay, good. Because it's like their numbers suggest that they should be in this group, but if you're paying any attention, Russell Westbrook was a minus 46 the other day, and I don't put a lot of stock in a plus minus, but when you're minus 46, it feels like something I should red flag. Do you want to go? Do you want to see how we match up with this thing and see disagreements? Do you want to go first? How do you want to do it?
You can go first. Yeah, to me, I mean, and
Number
again,
one is
it's-
obvious.
It's super early in the season, but everything we heard about the Rockets was, man, those guys play so hard. They take the regular season so serious. They don't take no games off. So they are going to be amazing in the regular season. Bet the over in the regular season. Then we'll see what happens in the playoffs. It hasn't been that great in the regular season. Like, it hasn't been terrible, but right now they're 4-3.
I would say 150 points and 62% shooting to the Washington Wizards is horrible.
Yeah,
That's pretty horrible. As far as horrible things go, that's just about as bad as it gets.
not good.
I think our number ones are consensus, AD and Braun.
Correct.
It's very clear that these guys spent a lot of time playing together this summer. No? Like, they have immediate chemistry that I think extends beyond just 2 guys who fit well together.
Yeah, they're in part of the same agency. AD looked up to Braun as a kid. That's why he wore the number 23. So, yeah, but I think they're also just 2 really, really easy guys to play with. If
To
you're someone
complement
else.
each other.
Yeah.
Like, that is just a natural compliment. They've been so impressive. AD just got named Player of the Week. It's obviously a home run signing. Who didn't think that was going to be good? And I think that if you're looking back at last season and how disaster it was from the Anthony Davis PR perspective of it, just, him showing up in the that's all folks and the way he really wanted to get out of town, the questions about how good he was, his teammate. You mentioned it earlier with the Giannis thing, right? Is that the legacy starts getting taken out of your own hands and about others around you, and it becomes about you. We were doing that with Anthony Davis. Last year it was, are we sure Anthony Davis is that good if he's only won one playoff series? Are we sure Anthony Davis is that good if he quits on his own team? And I think that going and playing with LeBron James, it's validating his whole thing because you see how good he can be with just a star next to him. And I know LeBron's one of the best in the league, but they're perfect together. And now I think this is going to completely change the way that we talk about Anthony Davis for the next decade.
D'Angelo Russell said about playing them, it's like playing against a fantasy team. And it's kind of true. Like there are very few situations where the top 5 guys in the league, 2 of them are on the same team. And you could legitimately say that for both of them, the best teammate they've ever had is the other guy. Like Anthony Davis right now is
no question
better than Dwayne Wade was when LeBron went to the Heat.
I love Dwayne Wade. That's hard for me to say.
Anthony Davis is going to be first team All NBA, and Dwayne Wade wasn't.
No, you're right. Here's the thing. It's just you're right. You're right, and it hurts me to say it because I've not been an Anthony Davis fan, and I love Dwayne Wade. I love Flash, but you're right. My number 2, my silver medal, goes to the guys that it took Danny Green hitting a miraculous 3 for the Lakers in order for them to beat them in overtime. You see that corner 3? You're out partying on Halloween.
He's hit a couple big corner threes.
He hit a corner 3 to tie the game against the Dallas Mavericks and send it into overtime. Buzzer beater.
This is ridiculous.
What?
That's my number 2 as well.
The Mavericks?
Yes.
How could it not be?
Wow, because no one coming into this year really put them in the duos conversation because it was done last year around the trade deadline. People were talking about, ooh, the Jazz have this new duo. Ooh, the Blazers, their duo's still together.
What is the Jazz? Did anyone think Mike Conley was going to be Mike Conley or that it was always going to be Rudy Gobert? Because Mike Conley, if we're putting him in the duos rankings right now, is like,
well, Rudy Gobert
he's
was
behind
there
Stanley
before.
Johnson and Matt Thomas. That's really tough start to the year from a guy Mike Conley. These 2 guys are combining for more points than any of the duos other than LeBron and AD, and the 2 guys in Houston that we mentioned are basically filling up on empty calories. It looks real. And speaking of chemistry, they just play off each other extremely well. Luka Doncic, is it a stretch to already say that he's going to be in the MVP conversation at the end of the year? Like the way that he looks and the way that he's playing? This feels very sustainable.
It's not a stretch, but it's also not a stretch to say that the Hawks may have won that trade. Because Luka is good, but he's not that much better than Trae Young. And they got Trae Young plus. Trae Young's pretty damn good.
Yeah, but I don't think Trae Young's ever going to win an MVP. And I think Luka Doncic is going to. And I think basketball is just a sport where if you get the best player and he can win an MVP and he can be the best player on a title team, you do that. And that's the thing about Doncic is Doncic is, what does Trae Young do better than Doncic other than shoot? I would say nothing. Doncic is averaging 11 assists right now. He's a better playmaker. He's a better defender. He's better at getting to the basket. He draws more fouls. He's just a more complete player. And I think that the Knicks have to be looking at this, and their fan base should be saying, why aren't the Knicks holding a media conference every day apologizing for the Kristaps Porzingis trade? Because they gave him away for cap space to get off the Tim Hardaway Jr. contract and some draft picks. They thought they were going to be signing Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. They end up signing Julius Randle, who's actually been okay to start the year. But you know who Luka Doncic, or who reminds me a little bit of young Luka Doncic? RJ Barrett. They actually play a pretty similar game. There's a lot of comparisons that you can draw between those 2 guys.
Lefties.
And all I can think of when I watch Luka Doncic is, holy crap, RJ Barrett and Kristaps Porzingis would have been a real thing. We might be sitting here doing duo rankings, rookie duo ranking, number 1, RJ Barrett with Kristaps Porzingis. And instead the Knicks gave him away for nothing because of hubris. Because they think they're New York and they think they're going to get everybody, even though they have no plan, horrible ownership, and they've been losers for more than a decade. So
they also really like Kevin Knox.
Great. I like Kevin Knox too. You know who Kevin Knox is never going to be as good as? Kristaps Porzingis. Fact.
There's also part of the equation that who was not going to re-sign there? Kristaps Porzingis.
Probably not.
So,
but what'd you get back? Some Dallas picks that are going to be in the 20s, and you don't have to pay Tim Hardaway Jr., I guess. That's good. I will say that's the most frustrating thing about watching Mavericks games is there are those few possessions a night where Tim Hardaway Jr. is just like, I don't care how good Doncic is or how good Kristaps is. I'm just going to fire away. I'm just going to come down the floor and jack up a pull-up three and clang it and have us lose in transition. I don't care. I'm Tim Hardaway Jr. So, yeah, that's my number. That's my silver. Doncic just unbelievable right now. Body looks good. Everything like that. Number 3, I think this is where we diverge.
Maybe. Go ahead.
My number 3 is Siakam and Lowry.
Friggin' hell.
Really?
That's mine as well.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just don't know how they're not the third most impressive duo to start. Like, Kyle Lowry's off to the best start of his career, and that's without having a training camp and with having a wonky injury to start things. He's red hot. Like, he took over that Milwaukee game in a way that was, I didn't know Kyle Lowry still had that left in the tank. I knew he could get hot, but that was just like full Kalo in every regard, where the team sucks around him, isn't doing anything, can't buy a basket, and the guy just says, don't worry, I'm going to put my team on my back against one of the best defenses in the NBA, one of the best teams against the NBA, bring us back from down 26 and make this a ball game. And Siakam, I think right now is the front runner for most improved player of the year for the second time in a row. Like, who's shown
They're
more?
not giving it to him back to back.
I know they're not, but I'm just saying, who's shown more than Pascal Siakam through the first 5 games of the season in terms of, oh my God, this guy has another level? I would say like maybe Karl Anthony Towns before he was fighting with guys.
OG Anunoby.
OG Anunoby's been good, but above the break pull-up threes and getting to the basket and not fearing whatever's there is a new Pascal Siakam. So they're in my number 3. They're yours as well. Nice. No
they're mine as well. I mean,
disagreements.
they're combining for 50 points in playing, all defense level defense. My honorable mention would go to Tatum and Kemba in Boston. They've had a nice start, but yeah, we're chalk on the top 3, which I did not expect actually.
The Kemba thing that I'm struggling with is like, he's played well, and Tatum has clearly taken a little bit of a leap, but it's just so clear how much. It's like, this is the real test of how much chemistry matters, because he's so not as talented as Kyrie. Like, you don't watch those games and fear Kemba Walker the same way you fear Kyrie Irving at the end of a shot clock.
True, but I don't know. Talking about empty calories, I don't know how often Kyrie Irving makes others better. Kyrie Irving, his best placement was in Cleveland beside LeBron James, because LeBron could make everybody else better, and then if you needed a late bucket, you could just swing it to Kyrie, and he could end the finals for you.
So,
but as the lead dog, I mean, I think we're going to soon look at Kyrie the way we now look at Westbrook.
almost giving us the let's wrap it up. So I think we should.
We should.
You can't see him.
we will wrap up the video portion of the pod.
But there you go, Mr. Pro.
If you need more pod.
They told me like 8 times before it started, do this. And I was like, nah.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap up the video portion of the pod, but we're going to catch up with Muggsy Bogues. Mm-hmm. So for that, make sure you like, listen, subscribe. The audio version of that conversation about what he's doing right now and about the last 25 years of Raptors basketball will be on the feed. Listen, you should be listening via iTunes anyways, so or wherever you get your podcast.
And if you are listening from iTunes, leave a little 5-star review, subscribe, and leave me a comment, because I'll read the comments. I'll check it out. And then I'll relay them to Donnovan and tell them exactly what they are. You know what? I'm going to start reading the comments on the show to you. That's the only way that I can promise that you'll listen to them. You want our fans, the associates, to just throw their opinions about the show into the void when they're positive, when they're trying to gas you up?
I just want them to share and listen. We don't get paid off of comments. There's no metric that says comments.
I get a metric,
us.
confidence metrics in my heart. I love you, good. I love you, good associates. You are the best. So yeah, coming up on the podcast portion, Muggsy Bogues, and coming up on the video proportion, goodbye.